Use my code PAY10 to get 10% off your next order of Advanced GG. The new Storm's Keep arc aspect for the Titan just made this new Titan arc build a #1 contender for any kind of boss damage in raids and endgame activities. If you're looking for a build to output the most damage while also having very good survivability, this is the Titan build for you. We're gonna break it all down: subclass, aspects, fragments, armor mods. So Guardians, let's get into this.
Yo, it's time to subscribe to Paid to Be Famous. What are you doing?
Subscribe to Paid to Be Famous.
Subscribe to Paid to Be Famous. Like the video, come on.
Hell
you know the drill.
Button.
And slap that like button.
Now, the bread and butter of this build is the Storm's Keep arc aspect. States that when you cast your class ability to grant you moderate amount of bolt charge, stacks to you and nearby allies. While behind your barricade, you and your allies gain stacks of bolt charge. Over time, your weapons can discharge max stacks of bolt charge. So bolt charge stacks up to 10 times. And when you cast your barricade, you're automatically going to get around 5 stacks of bolt charge. And while standing behind it, bolt charge will just constantly keep going up. About every 1 second, you'll gain another stack of bolt charge. But you can also gain bolt charge from sustained weapon damage. You don't have to be standing behind your barrier. It will just go up much faster if you are. And once you're at the max 10 stacks of bolt charge, ability damage generates a powerful bolt of arc lightning at the target's location. And every time you receive a bolt charge, it will grant you melee energy. And the great thing about Storm's Keep is that while behind your barricade, your weapons can actually discharge max stacks of bolt charge. So you don't need to do it with your arc abilities. You could have a strand weapon or a void or stasis weapon, and that will also discharge the lightning bolt. And that lightning bolt that rains down is a good chunk of damage on top of the damage that you're already doing with your power weapon. We're also going to be using Curus of the Falling Star. Comes with Glorious Charge, greatly increases your Thunder Crash damage and grants you damage resistance after impact. Melee final blows, while amplified, grants you super energy. This is one of the highest burst damage supers in the game. It's a really good way to start your damage phase or end your damage phase for a super big chunk of damage to a boss, on top of getting all that super energy from melees. And for our exotic weapon, we're going to be using the Thunder Lord. It just got reworked when Heresy dropped. Final blows with this weapon generate stunning lightning strikes from above, and lightning strikes actually grant stacks of bolt charge now, and this can actually stun overload champions. So the Storm's Keep, Curus of the Falling Star, and Thunder Lord are the 3 main things we're using. Let's get into the subclass and break it down. Obviously, we are on the Thunder Crash super. We're going to be taking the Rally Barricade because it has the lowest cooldown, a base cooldown of 38 seconds. And we're going to be taking the Thunderclap melee, which does a significant amount of damage for a melee. You hold your melee button down to plant your feet and begin charging, and then you release it to unleash a devastating blast in front of you, dealing damage that increases with longer charge time. For our grenade, we're taking the Flashbang Grenade because this will blind enemies, and blinding will actually stun unstoppable champions. So just with our Thunderlord and this grenade, we can stun overloads and unstoppables. For our aspects, we already went over the Storm's Keep, and then we're going to be taking Knockout to help with our survivability. It states that critically wounding a target or breaking their shield infuses your melee attacks with arc energy and increases your melee range and damage for a short time. Defeating targets with melee attacks makes you amplified and restores a portion of your health. Defeating more powerful combatants increases the amount of health restored. So this is going to make us amplified. Amplified recently got buffed. Once you're amplified, you gain 15% increase to your damage resistance to help keep you alive, on top of the melee kills, restoring a portion of your health. Getting into the fragments, we have the Spark of Frequency. Melee hits increase your equipped weapons reload speed, stability for a short duration. While amplified, these effects are increased and you gain increased stacks of bolt charge from all sources. So this build is all about the Storm's Keep and building bolt charge stacks. So this Spark of Frequency is just going to help bolt charge get charged even faster, so we can release down more lightning strikes. Then we have Spark of Discharge. Arc weapon final blows have a chance to create an ionic trace. Collecting an ionic trace grants you a stack of bolt charge. Once again, building into more bolt charge, and the ionic trace will give us more melee, barricade, and grenade energy back. Every ionic trace you collect is about 12.5% energy back to your ability. Then we have Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. While you're within 15 meters of 3 enemies, you gain an extra 25% damage resist on top of being amplified, which is 15% damage resist. And then you have Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target or defeating a target with Bolt Charge creates an Ionic Trace. So we're always going to be having stacks of Bolt Charge, so we always have a chance to create an Ionic Trace. And with some of the weapons that we're using, we will also be jolting enemies, so we can create an Ionic Trace that way as well. Now getting into our weapons, I really like taking a Strand weapon in the kinetic slot, mainly because Strand weapons synergize with the artifact, which we'll get into later. So I've been using the new Adamantine Auto Rifle or the Scatter Signal Fusion Rifle, because Fusion Rifles also got buffed in episode Heresy. They're now doing 30% more damage to PvE combatants, so you really can't go wrong with any Fusion Rifle this season. For our energy slot, there are tons of great arc weapons, and with those fragments that we're using, our arc weapons will create Ionic Traces. Obviously, everybody knows about the Indebted Kindness, one of the best rocket sidearms in the game. This one has Volt Shot, so we can jolt enemies. You also have things like Delicate Tomb, which creates a ton of Ionic Traces and benefits from the Fusion Rifle buff. You have the Lodestar, the new Season Pass exotic, which can also jolt enemies. Any weapon like Vantage Point with the Jolting Feedback perk. And if you want to do the most damage possible, you also have the Lord of Wolves. This thing is insane right now. It got reworked. All you got to do is hit fire to get released from the wolves active. If you have the Catalyst, you can now scorch and ignite enemies with this. This thing is insane right now. For the armor mods, on the helmet, we've got hands-on, gain bonus super energy on melee kills. And remember, our Curse of the Falling Star also gives us super energy on melee kills. So we're going to be able to stack these two to get our super back insanely fast. We're using a lot of arc weapons, so we have that Harmonic Siphon to create an orb every time we get a double kill with an arc weapon. Heavy Ammo Finder for our Thunderlord. On the arms, we have two heavy-handed mods. Our Powered Melee Final Blows create orbs of power. We're going to be getting a lot of melee ability energy back, so we got our melee up a lot, so we will create a lot of orbs with heavy-handed. On the chest piece, we have two Harmonic Reserves, so we can carry a ton of ammo for Thunderlord, and we have a Charged Up mod, increases the maximum number of stacks of our armor charge by 1. On the boots, we also have stacks on stacks. Every time we pick up one orb, it will grant us an additional stack of armor charge. We have Recuperation, replenishes health each time we pick up an orb of power, help keep us alive. Harmonic Scavenger, so we can pick up more ammo for our Indebted Kindness and our Thunderlord. On the class item, we have Outreach, reduces melee cooldown when using our class ability, because remember, with this build, we want to spam those melees to get our super energy back. And then we have Utility Kickstart. When your class ability energy is fully expended, your armor charge is consumed, and you gain class ability energy from each armor charge. And when we pair that with stacks on stacks and charge it up, we're pretty much going to have max stacks of armor charge every time we pop our class ability. Then we also have a Reaper mod, which is just another way to create an orb of power after we pop our class ability and get a weapon final blow. Then last but not least, on the artifact, you basically want to take all the arc mods. We have Overclock and Load while we're amplified or have Bolt Charge. Weapons gain increased handling and reload speed. We have Photonic Flare, defeating an exhausted or severed target with arc damage releases a blinding burst. And a big one right here that you absolutely need is Flashover. When you gain maximum Bolt Charge, you also become amplified, and our lightning bolts that get rained down from above will deal more damage. So if you want to be doing max damage, make sure you have Flashover. And then in the last column, Particle Reconstruction is going to be a must-have if you're using a fusion rifle or a linear fusion rifle. You don't have to use Thunderlord for this build. Linear fusion rifles are really good this season. So if you're not using Thunderlord, definitely put on Particle Reconstruction. And if you are going to go the Thunderlord route, use Heavy Ordnance Regeneration. When you deal sustained damage with heavy machine guns, it grants you damage resistance and it'll increase your grenade and melee regeneration. And that is going to do it for the build, Guardians. There will be a dim link down in the description, so you guys can just click on that link and open it up in Destiny Item Manager. For this build, all you got to do is just keep popping your class ability. You'll have it up pretty much all the time, and you can either start or finish a damage phase by popping your super and then just holding down the trigger on your Thunderlord and keep raining down those lightning bolts. If you guys are new here, found this helpful, do me a huge favor, subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you enjoyed the content, follow me over on Twitch for the live streams, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.